I'm Lance.
And I'm Jeremy.
And we are Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are hard to master, such as
Tiletum, 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 the newest T game by Board&Dice. I don't, even Google can't translate and tell you how to pronounce it. I've looked.
All right, so yeah, Tiletum, I think, is the pronunciation on this one. I don't know.
I mean, I've read
honesty,
I've read many different phonetics. I don't know.
It looks like it should be the easiest of the T games to pronounce. So
yeah, Tawantinsuyu, Teotihuacan.
So we really should not be having such a hard time with it as we are.
The Dutch, we blame the Dutch.
This is from Board&Dice, and this is a Euro game that takes place in France. And
I don't know if it's necessarily France. I think it's just Renaissance period in Europe.
Okay, well, yeah, some Western Europe here.
Parlez-vous français?
You're right, because London's on the board too, so I guess we should be clear on here.
It's more, I think it's more.
All right, fair
German geared.
So this is a game in which you've got several different mechanics at play here. The primary mechanic, I think, is probably going to be some dice placement.
Dice selection.
Dice selection, I should say, for sure. And then you're also exploring this board and building up some buildings. So there's some action selection going on, too, in this game. You definitely do have dice,
sixes, yeah.
Which I know some of you out there's at least one person out there saying, a Euro game with dice? What? Yes, this game is a Euro game with dice, and I'll tell you, it works. And I'll explain why here in a little bit. But this is a game in which you're going to play 3 rounds, and in each round you're going to select 3 dice, which are going to give you 3 actions. Now, you may have some free actions in between those main actions.
Called tasks.
Tasks, yes. But what you will primarily be doing are 3 actions during 3 turns, so essentially you have 9 actions and several tasks along the way. All in all, you're trying to have the most points. The score track runs around the outside of this board here. We're going to explain a little bit of how a turn looks like, brief overview, and then we're going to share our thoughts on this. So Jeremy, why don't you guide us through just some little bit of what a turn is going to look like.
4 rounds, right?
Oh gosh,
12 turns.
12 turns, sorry.
Hard.
Math, it is hard.
He loses by 1 point sometimes, a lot of times. So I'm guiding him through a turn, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got y'all. So on your turn, you're going to select a die. Well, you might be thinking, how do I know which die I want? Well, it depends on which action you want. You could take a 6 die, which is going to get you 6 of a resource type, depending on the color of that die. Or, in addition to those 6 resources, you're going to gain 1 action. But maybe I want more actions and less resources. So I've got to decide if I go with a 3 value die, and for instance, this food die here is a 3, I'm going to get 4 actions. So it really depends on what actions I want that are going to give me the biggest benefit. So what actions could you do? You know, you could move up the king track, because at the beginning of every round, you're going to be moving down or staying where you're at, because these tokens are either going to be 0, 1, or -0, -1, or -2.
And this represents the king's favor for you. It's also what can determine turn order in the next round.
It will determine turn order, yeah.
But you want to stay ahead on it, not just because of turn order, but it's going to give you points. You can get as much as 15 points if you can get down here at the end of this track, which is really hard to do, and it's hard to stay down there.
I did the first game.
But you will lose 10 points if you get pushed all the way to the back of the track on this line. So this can give a lot, and it can take a lot.
In addition to that, staying in blue, if you get to blue, you stay in blue. You don't go back.
Right.
Well, if you're in red, the negative, you're going to go back to 0 at the beginning of the round no matter what. So it does pay off to be in the beginning. Plus, you could get a bonus tile. This game is all about bonuses. If I just say one or a couple words to describe this game, it is chaining bonuses.
Yep.
Those bonus actions. Because when I take that die, I'm going to take these action tokens, which tell me how many actions of that specific type I can have. as I use them maybe to move my merchant wagon around to collect bonus tiles that are on the board or place merchant stands or houses, whatever you want to call them, then I'm spending these action points. Maybe I'm moving my architect around based on pulling that die, and I'm moving them around and placing pillars or pulling tiles off, setting up so I can pay stone to create these massive cathedrals. Why would you want to move your merchant around? You want to get to certain cities so that you can participate in the fair, which are going to give you scoring events at the end of every round. You may do character actions, which are going to let you spend these action tokens to get characters, to place them into your houses. Being able to fill up a house will give you more houses or merchant stands, whatever you call them, to move on the board, which will give you more presence on the board, which means you may not have to go back to those towns. You can just you can have your family do the fair for you. In addition to that, once you fill a house, if you've placed a crest in that house, which this specific crest right now is in the contract row, which is another action. I can spend contract action points to purchase contracts. All of these tiles that I take though, bonus tiles, contract action tiles, character tiles, any of those square tiles are gonna be used in this this 2x2 grid here. And they don't like slide around, but I'm going to be placing them here to free up this spot. I've got to move it. Either I've got to discard it, which would be a waste, or maybe I fulfill that contract's requirements and I place it up here, which would unlock a pillar and give me a new space over here to use.
Such as don't have. Paying 9 iron will help you to get 17 points and fulfill this contract.
Yeah, and I mean, if I've already done a couple, that'd be, if it goes on the +2 spot, that's 19 points for that. So utilizing this 2x2 in addition to your die and chaining these bonuses is what this game is about, in addition to getting to certain regions, either to place your pillar to build these cathedrals or to ensure that your merchant or your houses are in the correct location so you can participate in the fair, which is going to give you a lot of scoring throughout the game. And you don't want to miss out on those scoring events. Now, I will say you don't have to hit every one of them or every town that has a fair, because some may not be geared towards your strategy, so you may neglect that to focus on other ways to get points, because you can get points in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I will tell you, as a strategy tip, I would try to stay in the lead of the game. It's much harder to come back from behind to win, even if it's by 4 points at the end or 10 points. It's harder to come back from behind, so making sure you're getting points as you go is important. Moving characters over here so that I free up these spots and fill up the house so I can gain a new house to place out. But if I have a house filled and I place a crest, well, that crest is going to give me it's going to cost me food, but it gives me a bonus. It gives me a bonus. In addition to that, at the end of the game, you're going to score every filled house and crest. As long as you have 3 or more, it's going to incrementally go up. So all in all, that's what the game is about. Again, there are a few good videos which we use before playing as well to just verify rules, reading the rule book and then verifying off the video. So I would say check those out. This was just kind of an overview of what you would expect in a game.
Feel for the game.
You're going to be pulling a die, which is going to give you an action. You're going to use these points, and you can use bonus action points in between these. So you want to keep them separate so that you can utilize those. In addition to that, you can spend coins in place of resources, which is always nice. 2 coins for 1 resource. You can also spend 2 coins to use your die as a +1 or -1, including going from a 6 to a 1 or a 1 to a 6. And you can do that to get the die. Maybe like right here, a 4 die didn't come out, but I want to do the contract action. Well, I would pay those 2 coins. I can make that 3 a 4.
Yep.
Now I'm only getting 3 resources, but I'm doing the level 4 action.
Right.
And so it's all about managing. It's a true Euro. You're managing everything you're getting and trying to get more. And it is very satisfying in this game to chain actions.
Yep.
And it's not super hard a lot of times to chain bonus actions and do things. One thing we didn't say is if you fill your house and you come and you place a crest in there, you're going to unlock one of these bonus tiles, depending on how many people are in that house.
You can have
coordinates with that.
A +1, +2, or +3.
Then whatever the bottom right-hand corner of that character tile says, the icon, that's where this bonus tile is going to go. So for the rest of the game, if this bonus tile is here, I'm going to get plus however many that bonus tile is for those actions. So, and that can be big because you may only, the dial may be facing to where you have, you know, a 6 there, you only get 1 action, but now I have +2. So it's really 3 actions.
Right.
So getting those 6 resources and doing the 3 actions
Makes
is
it
actually
a lot more enticing.
Pretty powerful compared to some of the other things.
Right.
So that's the gist of the game. If you want more, I would say look up a how to play video for a full rules teach. Just wanted to talk about what the overall feel and things you're going to be doing in the game are.
So let's talk about our thoughts on the game and some pros and cons with that. For me, guys, this is a game that checks all the boxes for me when it comes to a Euro game. And what I'm looking for in a Euro game is exactly what Jeremy said. I'm managing a lot of different things, resources, the type of actions that I can take, spaces I can go to on the board, qualifying for in-game bonus points. I'm managing all of these things. This game has that. It's what it is from beginning to end. And so if you're somebody who likes that type of feel with a game, this is going to be for you. This is going to be your jam. Now, again, going back to what I said at the beginning of the video, I know there's some people out there that are just going to immediately say, whoa, 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 what about those dice? That's too much luck. Let me tell you, this game does not have luck being much of a factor. At least I don't think it does. You do roll the dice. The dice are placed out based off of the number. But as Jeremy already said, you have a way of changing those numbers using gold.
If you're managing your money.
If you're managing your money. And then not only that, as we've already explained to you, you have a way to increase the action so that the number on the value on the die is not that big of a deal.
Yeah, the randomness that you're going to find are maybe bonus or character tiles,
the tiles coming out.
That's essentially because everything else is set up. We could talk about variety here. There's a lot of variety in this game because I've played just base setup, and then I've played where I randomized every single thing, including the dial and just spinning it, and wherever it landed is where I started. Not to mention placing out. You can change the order of the actions with the random actions. You're going to have different cities that are going to be placed. Tiletum or Tiletum.
Let's not get into that again.
That city, that Dutch city, I believe, is going to be the first fair every game, but the different bonus point scoring is going to be different.
You can shake that
so
up
that's going to be different every time. In addition to the 3 additional building locations. On top of that, you're going to have these different tiles that are going to go where you put the cathedral tiles, and they're going to dictate how much stone is utilized or required, and then it's going to give you a point total that you add to that cathedral's point total. So the variation in the amount of points you're going to get from the cathedrals that are available is going to be different. In addition, you have one cathedral that will not be built that game, and that can change things up quite a bit too. At times, there's no reason to go to this city except for it's got a fair happening,
and
even
though need the points.
Even though there's no bonus tile or anything. You just kind of go there and you have to make that a priority if that is going to give you a lot of points in your scoring.
Yeah.
So the different cathedrals that come out, then you have the different tiles that you're going to see. If I would have only seen a few more crests last time, because the other person I played against kept taking all the crests and he didn't have the food. Just taking them from me. But there's so much variety in how you play that I've played several times now and it feels different each time. I've tried different strategies.
Yeah, me too.
A lot of people go full house. I had I had Candace Cameron. I had a full house here, right here. All people, not enough press. And that strategy did not work out. I probably won't do that strategy again.
And I've done that, and I've done making sure that I have buildings and pillars out here as much as you can across the board, giving yourself a lot of in-game points. And I can tell you that makes for an exciting finish.
Yeah.
May not mean you win, but
I had an exciting finish too with my full house.
Yeah.
But Bob Saget failed me, and we did not win. There's 11 points. I shouldn't have been nice to the new guy. I let him. I could have taken that fair, and he would not have been able to do it. And I was nice, and
so there's a lot of different ways you can play this game. I'll tell you, probably my favorite thing about this game is that you have ways to try and impede other players taking the dice that you know they want, the resources, because food is so important. And if I can take the food away from you, that's going to handicap you quite a bit. But there are ways to get around that. You can find other ways to get
trade.
You can get as many points as you can other ways. Building cathedrals, that's a good way of getting points. I mean, there's just different ways that you can find. You can work, you can make your game plan still work. It might look a little different than how you planned it at the beginning of the round, but that's what makes a good Euro, in my opinion.
It can be very reactive.
You can react to what's happening on the board. And this game allows you to do that. And like Jeremy said, it's all about comboing those bonuses one after another after another. I move my architect around and I build this pillar, but I also picked up this contract, and now I'm going to fulfill that, and now that gives me another house that I can build. Pillar. So you can just kind of go bam, 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 and you can feel like you do a lot on your turn, and you really only took one action with all these tasks tied to it. So
and you said earlier, people say, oh, it's dice in a Euro, I don't want it. A lot of people also say, oh, this is a bland brown Euro, another Euro.
Yeah.
And I will say, I don't mind the board. I don't either. I love a beautiful board, Bitoku. I love that game, and I love the artwork in it, and it's so busy. This one's not. This is pretty straightforward and bland, and it looks like a map that somebody might have made a long time ago with pencils carved of straight lead.
You know why I like it?
Why?
I think you know. What does it look like?
Yeah.
It looks like my favorite game. It looks like Orleans or Orleans, if some of you out there. It has that vibe to it. It's the same region area.
Well, I think you're just comparing this artwork and this.
I'm talking about the map area and the network out here. It has that feel to it. No, but it gives me that same sort of vibe.
So it's another T game, and we have reviewed a T game called Tekinyu, and it has a similar kind of feel to when you're pulling dice to do actions, not exact, but that's a similarity. I will say this one though, the scoring is nowhere near confusing.
No,
the scoring is pretty straightforward in this game. It's not overly complex. The only thing is you're going to have to tell people how to do each action, what they can, and explain that they can do tasks at any times that they want, but it's not overly complex. I felt like the scoring in Tekinyu was a little overly complex, especially over here in the temple when you're placing stuff. So
for sure.
This is much easier and straightforward with how everything's done.
And on that, real quick, going to another game that we recently reviewed, Terracotta Army had quite a bit of complexity with that in-game scoring, with the way the soldiers are placed. You don't have that with
there's just 3 in-game things for this. How many houses did you fill up with a crest? If you get 3, 4, 5, or 6, you're going to get so many points based on how many you got. You're going to multiply your houses, merchant stands, times your pillars. That gives you, so if you had 2 houses and 3 pillars, that's 6 more points. In addition to that, you're going to gain 1 point for every 4 resources. So pretty straightforward at the end, other than scoring your fair and for the king's favorite track. But other than that, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I will say you are going to score anywhere from probably 150 to 250 points probably.
It is a high scoring game.
But I'll tell you, this one did not distract me with the scoring. A lot of times I've told you I am good with like 75 to 125, and it's not taking away from the game. This one, you're scoring points the whole time you play, and you do have a potential for up to about 40 points at the end if you went with that in-game strategy of your houses. Most people aren't going to jump that much, maybe 20 to 30 points, maybe even 15 or whatever. But I don't feel like the point total and gaining the points is much of a distraction. Like I told you, I would not trail by a whole bunch the whole game. That's going to be super hard to come back. Try to stay pretty close if you're not in the lead.
And I'll say that my experiences with this game, the score at the end is pretty tight. This is a game that, you know, one or two things can really decide the outcome of this, even it being a point salad, a bit of a point salad as you're getting points here and there.
One or two mistakes.
One or two mistakes is what's going to make the difference in this game for sure. And you'll know it too. And that's the thing. That's another reason why I really like this game, is because I can look back at it and I can know exactly the mistakes that I've made and what I needed to do differently. And I'm ready, geared up to play it again to try and not make those mistakes. And so sometimes I don't always see it so clearly in other games. With this one, it's pretty clear what I did wrong and how I can make it better. So,
and it does have a solo.
Yep.
We've not played it. I don't know if I'm going to play it. I've looked at some of the rules and stuff for it, and you're facing the Cardinal. I don't know if it's going to be the type of game that I want to solo. So that may not be anything I try, but if you're a big solo gamer, it's definitely something to check out. It has its own rule book, so it's not like just 1 page or 2 pages. It's another rule book that you're going to utilize on the backside of every board it has, so you don't have to like find the specific one. You're going to have cards, and that cardinal's going to do and move and all that stuff. I've not played 4-player yet. I've heard other reviewers or people saying they don't want to play this 4-player. I'm not opposed to it.
Me either.
Because I like that and clogging people. There are more action spaces on the board. You're going to use the tiles with the 4th person. I've played 2 and 3 players several times, and I enjoy it with both of those, and I don't mind a competitive game going long if it has a purpose. So I'm not opposed to trying it. I feel like 3 players is a sweet spot for this one. 2 players is still really good. A lot of games I'm like 2-player, I'd rather just play cooperative or an abstract type of game where it's a skirmish, head-to-head type of game. This, as a Euro and 2-player, I think scales very well.
Yeah, I do too.
And I've played it multiple times with 2 players, and I would play it again with 2 players. I just personally think that 3 players is a sweet spot for this one. But again, I would play 4-player gladly and see how that plays. And if I do, I usually try to comment in the comments and give you an update. So,
well, let's get to our scores with this one. Jeremy, you know, I told you how much I enjoyed this game as we were playing it leading up to this review. My score is going to be really high on this one. For me, guys, this is a must buy. This is a game that I would not let get by me at the end of this year. It's 100% going to make my top 10 video. I know I've said that about some other games. I'm going to have to start knocking some ones off.
You're going to start shaving them off.
But I tell you what, guys, this has potential to be my favorite game of 2022. It is that good. I'm going to give it a 9.2. I love this game.
That's it? A 9.2?
Well, okay.
For your best game of the year?
You got to understand, 9.2 is darn near close to perfection.
2 through 10.
It is fantastic, guys. There's not very many things about this game that I don't love. I love the mechanics. I love the way the game unfolds. And I've already mentioned the comboing and being able to work out around what somebody roadblocks you with. Just there's so much to enjoy about this particular game. Yeah, 9.2, fantastic. Go out there and get it. Don't miss this one.
At Gen Con, I was super pumped about Terracotta Army, and I still really like that game. But we heard about this one, and this one really started to pique our interest. And I can tell you, this is a game that I also really enjoy. It will make my top 10 where, I'm not sure yet, because I'm still trying to get in a couple more really, really big games to see how they plan out. The way that I can change this game up, and it changes it in so many ways, the replayability is big for me because I like to be able to switch it up. And this I don't even think needs an expansion. I think it's in the box with the variability. I think this has everything it needs to be, and I think an expansion could possibly take away from it, depending on if they do come out with anything like they usually do. So this game is making my top 10. I can already tell you that. My score is going to be a 9. I really, really like it a lot, but I don't know if it's going to beat the number one.
Come on.
I've played this several times. I really like everything that it does. There's nothing I don't like. Even losing was fun. Trying that new strategy, one I might not ever use again fully. You know, you got to dabble. I went too heavy in one, and that hurt me, I think, and not playing aggressive as I should have. But I don't think it's going to top what I have as number one right now. It's hard. It's kind of like when I have my number one of all time, I'm trying to like knock it off.
It's hard to
knock that, and I'm like, I can't.
Sure.
That's still my number one. I feel like this could be number 2, could be number 3. It's going to be in the top 5, I'm fairly certain. But it's just, it's all about how it feels. When we finished playing, we both said this is a game that you could play, you could stop playing, and if you had the time, you could reset it up and be fine. I agree with that. I think that's a game, you know, by the way you change it up, that could happen. There's very little randomness, I feel. The randomness is set up at the beginning, except for what tiles come out, and there's multiples of most of them. The only thing that there's not a whole lot of are the crest tiles. That's hard when you can't see, because you can't have more than one of the same type, just like you can't, after you have a full house or as many people as you would need to fill that house of that type, you can't get more.
Duplicate those people.
So, but there's plenty of characters, so that's easy. Contracts, there's plenty of contracts, that's easy. Bonus tiles, they may get a better bonus tile, but there's so many good bonus tiles that they're all pretty close or going to get you a really good benefit. It's the crest tiles that make it the hardest. And if somebody, if they keep coming out and they're there for them to get and you can't get them because they're rarely coming out, that's the one bummer. And the hard part is getting those. Even if I can have all the food, but if I can't get the crest, I can't fulfill that to get the scoring, and I've invested everything in the strategy.
But
that's
to be
my
clear,
one
you can get crests out here on the map. They'll be out there. Sometimes they'll come up here with the dice.
Random setup,
it is random, but it's not just limited to the contract.
You'll find more probably in the bonus tile stack than the contracts. There's a few in the contracts, but the thing is if you're invested heavily in the strategy of that, and they don't come out in a 2-player game as much, that's kind of a bummer because you spent all this investment.
Sure.
And now I know that. I'm not going to go that heavy into the houses, but when you see getting 6 for 30, it makes it seem like it's a little bit more.
And I'll tell you guys,
completed.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it is possible to fill up every spot on your board down here, but that's darn hard.
I had to skip all the. Usually I do a lot of different things. I had to skip the contracts to pretty much focus on this house to get all these. And I had to, these out for 3 of them, but there just weren't enough crests. So there's that little bummer, I feel like.
That's fair.
Because you could go heavy in contracts, and then once you fill up your contracts, you could do something else, But the houses, you can't complete that if you don't have the crest come out.
Yeah,
and there's times where that doesn't come out.
Yeah.
But as far as the game itself, the replayability, everything else, fabulous, 9.0. You're going to see it again from both of our lists. I'm fairly 100% sure.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, guys. That's our thoughts on Tiletum. I'm going to go with that pronunciation.
T game.
It is from Board&Dice. Leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think about this hot game and if it's one that would make your top 10 of 2022. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Please, please, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon to be notified of all of our great new content. I'm Lance.
And I'm Jeremy.
And we are Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are
hard to master.
We'll catch you next time.
We'll see ya.